Hey all, first of all, I'd like to thank Elsa and Ed for giving me this opportunity for talk about you guys of what we have done in NYU and using Snowflake and our project, like what we have done towards self-service analytics, basically. That's what I'm going to talk about. As you're aware, NYU, it comprises of around 12 to 13 schools, and it has a 3 degree providing campus basically across the globe. And we have around 50,000 students spanning across the globe, basically. So one of the mandate it was given to us from the president of our NYU is we need to work on student success. So that's one of the simple goal he has given to us, to our team, IT team. And I'm part of the NYU IT team who works for the enterprise data management group. Basically, it is a data warehouse group where we collect all the data from various schools and help them to do a lot of analytics. And as well as we share the data, we get the data, we process the data, we house the data, a lot of things we do it. So given that one small sentence on student success, so it came down from our chief data architect telling how we can work on the student success. So based on that, we started a project called Learning and Analytics. What is that is about? When you're talking about the learning management system, I'm going to use some terminology because it's a higher ed space and hope everyone understands that. Like when you're talking about the learning management system, LMS system, it is spread across many different systems and it is complex basically, and it has various data and various systems are there. So what we want to do with is we want to collect more information about the students and how they interact with the faculty. And in turn, the other way also, how the faculty interacts with the students, not only for this semester or this one particular semester. We want to create a repeatable model out of this one so that you can compare 2020 fall with 2019 fall. And because each faculty is going to be different, each students are going to be different. So how do we create this model? That's what we are trying to do it here. Yeah, so based on that, what we did is we started working on revolving around the learning management system. Let's see what kind of data we can get it, how we can help the faculty. That's what we started with as premises. What we did is based on the student success, we got some metrics on what we need to work on, how we can understand the students, what is the interaction from the students to the faculty. So we created some metrics, how we can analyze, understand each and every scenarios, how they are interacting it. For an example, when you're talking about the simple things is we can get the early alert signs. For an example, certain students who doesn't interact with the lessons right from the beginning. So we can track that and we can correct it. So that is some of the metrics. And some of the things is, for example, a particular students or a particular batch of students, an assignment is given. Everyone is getting wrong means there is something wrong in the faculty, what he is taking that subject to the students. So these are some of the metrics I have listed down here. It was given to us. So what we need to do with is based on this metrics, we need to collect the data from different systems. We need to assemble all the data. We need to slice the data and we need to do all those analysis. So that's what these are the things it was given to us. So based on this criteria, we started working on it. Let's get all the data from the learning management system. Let's put it in the warehouse and slice it. So what we did is initially we didn't go to Snowflake. Initially there was we are a traditionally ETL shop, which is run by DataStage and Oracle. So we started to approach this project in that fashion. What we did it is basically when you're talking about a different source system, we used to collect all the data and we process all the data in the ETL fashion. That's a traditional fashion. We're using the data stage and we loaded all the data into Oracle database. And we opened up to the Tableau users and the OBA users who runs all the reporting to understand all these metrics, whatever we have been defined. So that being said, we face a lot of challenges when starting that project, like basically, because when I'm talking about the LMS systems, we have around 22 LMS systems, which is for which supports our learning needs basically. And certainly you guys are from the other universities. Certainly you're aware of a lot of LMS systems like Cultura, Scrum, WordPress. I'm going to show that in the next slide. So each of the systems data is not a relational or it's not a structured data. So that being said, we have a lot of issues because some of the data we are dealing was a clickstream analysis data, because data keeps on flowing. We need to do a lot of analytics on the streaming data. So we had a big challenge in that, like, because with the traditional ETL and Oracle databases, we are not able to estimate it, because when we started the project, what will be the infrastructure needs and everything, we are not aware of it. So some of the biggest bottleneck is, how do we set up the environment? What do we need as an infrastructure? So all those things we are not aware of it, basically. So we started small, and as usual, like other places, we kept on scaling it. Like, okay, let's add a other database or add a space, or we kept on. So what is the biggest challenge we faced? Is we had a constant interaction, and we were using a lot of DBAs and infrastructure guys' time extensively. So that was the biggest challenge and the biggest bottleneck in the current learning management, the existing learning management system we had. And one more thing is, it is not cheap also. For example, if I'm getting terabytes of data from the clickstream analysis, I need to provision that in the production environment. Apart from that, I need to provision that in the DR, and correspondingly, I need to keep on rolling that space into other places also. So the neither it's cheap or nor it's fast, basically. So that was another biggest issue we faced it, because we kept on scaling and the performance was really slow. And another biggest challenge we faced it is, a lot of our developers kept on spending time in tuning, coding, a lot of things it was. And this didn't give any option for us on the self-service mode. Like, because what is happening is, we are using data stage as an ETL tool. You need to have a specialized skill into understanding the tool, code it, develop it, and we cannot open up this tool to the BAs or data modelers or something like that. They are pretty familiar with the sequence, basically, or understand the data using a Toad or any other tool. That's what they are familiar with that. Like, so when you cannot introduce a data stage tool to them, that was another problem we faced. Apart from that, like, because of the size of the data, we kept on using different databases. Data was sitting in different silos and everything and all, and data sharing and data provisioning was becoming very cumbersome. So that being said, like, all these are the bottlenecks we encountered, and we were taking to our chief data architect, and we said, like, these are the issues. And then she introduced us to Snowflake, and she was working with the Snowflake, and slowly we started engaging it. So what we did is, we had our existing project. It was running, up and running, and it is not performing, but it was running. We had a lot of issues. So what we said, then this is the good time to convert this project into using the latest stack, using Snowflake and other technologies, streaming technologies. Let's convert it and let's see the performance. So given this, we took a step, we sliced the data, we approached like a divide and conquer. Let's approach one at a time. First, what we did is, okay, let's try to leverage Oracle instead of Snowflake. So in that, without changing much of the variables, because we don't want to change all the variables and get into problems and trouble. So let's start changing Oracle into Snowflake. And one of the best part is, it supports SQL, ANSI SQL and everything. We don't need to worry about much of the underlying component. So that's another best advantage to our advantage it came in. So what we did is, we started small. How we started small is, as I mentioned, the source system, we had around 4 to 6 source system. Let's start taking one of the source system, which is a streaming data. And I don't know whether you guys are using it. Cultura, Scrum, and Sakai was one of our learning management system. That is a hub, and it is surrounded by a lot of other learning management system. So what we did is, it was running under the Oracle, and it is a relational data. So what we did is, we used Attunity. Attunity was a tool to capture the change data capture. So we started leveraging that. We put the Attunity and we replaced the ETL tool data stage. So let's put the Attunity, let's capture all the changes on a near real time. Let's stream the data, and we were writing into Snowflake. That's one of the simple thing. We started with that and we started doing it. Once the data started landing into Snowflake, what we did is, we did an approach of, we changed our approach a slightly bit. Instead of ETL approach, let's do ELT approach. That was the biggest game changer for us, because a lot of our BAs, developer, we were working on understanding the data, like doing a lot of transformation, all those things and all. So the biggest game changer was, let's load the data as it is into Snowflake. Let's not do any transformation. Let's load it into this landing area. From there, we slice we slice the data. We take data, what is it is relevant to us. All those things we did it. So we streamed the data. We landed into the Snowflake environment. From there, we were using a data vault methodology as well as like a Kimball methodology also. Both, it's a combination we were using it. So once the data has been loaded, so we started slicing the data, and we started transforming the data. And what we did is another thing we did it is, we were using different warehouses for different load process. That's one of the best advantage we did it, because the ETL, it runs during end of the day on the older system, and there was a big lag because we used to run the data only the midnight because of the Oracle data stage, and it was slow, and we cannot do a micro batch. Here, since we are streaming the data and we are loading the data into Snowflake, we were trying to run a micro batch on a near real time. So that was the biggest gain we did it is, because in the earlier scenario, the data was running for hours together. After that, the batch is done and everything. It took hours to get the data on the end tables, reporting table, what Tableau and OBAE was looking into it. Here, data we run within every 4 hours, the streaming data, what we did is we dumped everything into Snowflake. And even we used to get a lot of data from APIs, different source system, and as it is, the raw data, the JSON file, we loaded into the variant data type. And from there, we try to slice the data, and we try to parse the data and try to integrate the data. Everything we did it with the help of SnowSQL. That is another thing. We totally eliminated data stage, and everything did it in Snowflake. Next slide, I'll mention about how we did it, the self-service and all those things and all I'm going to talk about. So our entire processing, it has been changed from data stage to SnowSQL, basically. That's one thing. And the adoption was so easy, because when you're talking about the data modeler or BAs or developer, because when you're using a data string, the underlying lot of SQLs and everything, so it is not a big learning experience. It didn't take time for them to learn the SnowSQLs, basically. So our entire job, what we have done is we broke it into SnowSQL packages, procedures, not packages, procedures, function, everything. And we had a framework how we can dynamically enable the self-service. That's what we did. I'll talk about that in the next slide. So in that way, this architecture, it simplified us a lot. And one of the another issues we faced on the previous one is the data silos and data provisioning was a big problem, because all the data was sitting in different database. And if you need to share the data, if you need to integrate the data, it was a big problem. So one of the nice feature Snowflake had is the data share. So what we did is we created a lot of shares, and whatever the data each department or each school needs it, we publish the data during the data share. So in that way, what we were able to do is, we don't need to replicate the data or send it across the files or something like that. We created an account, we share the data, so they were able to come in, get the data, and take it forward. So that is one of the nice feature we had. And another important feature which we were leveraging in NYU is the cloning the data, basically the data cloning for the for the non-prod development environment. Because when you're talking about the Oracle other things, we used to export the data, we used to import the data, we used to create like another database, a separate database for the non-prod environment. Here, we didn't do that. We did a zero copy cloning. In that way, the entire environment, it was created in a click of mouse button. That's one of the biggest advantage of it. Like on the latest and greatest data, we can get it in the click of mouse button. So that feature, we are using it. So in that way, we reduce a lot of infrastructure need, infrastructure footprint, and the DBS time, infrastructure time. All those things we are able to achieve with the help of Snowflake induction. Like that's one of the best feature we had it. Basically. The next slide here, I'm talking about this. In this slide, people might be familiar about the source system. Because when you're talking about the higher ed space, some of the source systems, they would have seen it and they would have been familiar. These are the source system, like our learning management system is revolving around. Our main hub of the source system is Sakai. That is the center of our learning management system. What Sakai did it is it has an integration with various systems, around 22 systems. And when you're talking about these systems, each has a different data type. Some are relational, some are structured, unstructured. All this data was there. So in order to process all those data in Oracle data, we had a huge challenge basically. So with the help of Snowflake, the different data types, whether it is Cultura, the Sakai is a relational, this is an API call. With a combination of Affinity and MuleSoft, we used to get the data and we used to stage the data as it is in the raw form into the Snowflake environment. That is one thing. So all this data, whatever I'm showing it, it has been steamed on a real-time basis or a micro batch. We are able to load it into Snowflake. That's one thing we were able to do. But so that this particular option we were not able to do in Oracle, and that is the reason there was a lag of almost 24 hours or more to report the data to the faculty. Because when you're talking about the faculty interaction with the students, it need to be real time. The reason is when you start a class today morning, faculty wants to know it. Did the students submit the assignment? How long they spend the time on watching the video, the quizzes? Did they answer the quizzes? All those different metrics they want to see it when we start the class. In the earlier architecture, we were not able to provide that at all. That was the biggest gain, and we were able to focus more on the student success with this architecture. That's one thing. So once we had all the data here, what we have done is we were using a lot of SQL, NoSQL, and everything we created, more than it was created by data modeler, business analyst, everything. They created the SQLs, and we used to store it in S3 buckets, basically. So before the SQL gets into S3 bucket, we have the same SDLC process where it goes from each SQL or the Snow functions or procedures, everything we used to go through SDL. Then only we'll move to the migrate to the production. So what we did is, this is where our self-service architecture came into picture. So when a new data needs or new metrics need to be created, earlier in the old fashion, the BAs, they need to contact the developers. From the developers, they need to create a new ETL job. From there, and again, the SDLC process, it takes a little longer to get that. In this fashion, what we did is the developer were not involved at all. That was the biggest thing. It was able to free a lot of our FT's time, basically. Because the reason behind this one is, once we design this framework, once we put our code, so NoSQL or functional packages, and we created some of the Lambda function. It's a serverless architecture we created. What it does, it processes that SQL, it executes that code into the Snowflake database, and it processes and transforms and everything and all. So primarily we are using S3 as a scheduler, because one of the things we faced it is, when we started this project, there was no task functionality available in Snowflake. Right now it is available. We are planning to leverage that. Since it is these task functions are not available, we were created this framework where we put all the SQLs there with the help of Lambda. We invoke this with the help of a CloudWatch job. We execute that SQL. We run all the procedures in a every 4-hour fashion, and we send the notification. So in this fashion, the data keeps churning in every 4 hours, and the latest and greatest data, it's available in the analytic database. So once the data is available, the tablet dashboard, the faculty, they were able to see the stats for that particular class, because they're going to move from one class to another. Once each and every class, they were able to query for students what they have done, how they interacted with the classes and assignments and everything. All those metrics they were able to, and they were able to stop, get a lot of early warnings, everything from this dashboard, whatever. And one more thing is, if a faculty wants to add any new metrics, then they don't need to contact any of the development team or IT team. They were directly working with the PAs. They are directly working with the data modeler, creating all the SQLs and put it there. That's it. Certainly it goes to the change control process and everything and all. Once that is there, the SQLs are there, and the BAs and data modelers, they create a CloudWatch schedules. They know it, where it need to be, when it need to be executed. Once that is there, data has been processed, and data has been loaded into the Snowflake environment, basically. So this is one of the biggest advantage we had it. Because when you're talking about the earlier in the Oracle, we used to have terabytes of data. Because as I mentioned, like it is a streaming data. Each semester we used to have terabytes of data from the video streaming, from the blogs and everything and all. So when you're running the query, it took a lot of time because we need to compare from one semester to another semester. It was not possible. But with the help of Snowflake, even with the help of a medium warehouse, our reports, Tableau reports, was running in seconds. Basically, it used to run for minutes in Oracle database. It was running in seconds. We are able to produce all the metrics with the help of this kind of approach. So the biggest advantage is self-services and the reliance of the developer. We used to have at least 2 developers basically fully focused on this one. Now, no developer is working on this project. We have created this framework, and with the help of all this Snowflake and other architecture, whatever we created, no developer is working. Only the business directly work with the BAs. Any new requirement, they get it and it's up and running. So that is the advantage of it. And even we are not going to the DBAs at all now anymore. So that reliance also, it has been cut. So everywhere across the board, it was a win-win situation for us, and so we are able to achieve this approach basically. And one of the backbone for this project was a Snowflake. As I mentioned earlier, it didn't have some of the features like CDC and task and everything. Now this releases, recently they introduced task, streams and everything. We are in the process of exploring, so that wherever it's possible, we don't want to use anything else. If we can bundle everything to Snowflake, we can eliminate a lot of CDCs, another task and everything. We can simplify the architecture. Source system on one side, stage the data, process the data with the help of SnowSQL, and load the data into Snow Analytics database. That's what we are trying to do. Here, I want to talk about a little bit on the metrics, what we achieved by leveraging this architecture. Earlier, when we are talking, as I mentioned, our LMS system is surrounded by 20 to 23 systems, basically. When we need to integrate each and every system, it takes a lot of analysis, a lot of development time and everything and all. So what we are able to do it is, when you're talking about the data extraction, earlier, a simple system, even to extract the data, we need to understand everything. It was taking weeks. With the help of this architecture, we were able to reduce it to days, basically. Because we are using the CDC approach, the data has been landed, and we changed to, from the ETL approach, we changed to ELT approach. So all those things, it was making the things much simpler, and we are able to get it a particular source system within few days, basically. The biggest advantage with the biggest gain, what we got it is the ETL coding time. Because being an IBM shop on data stage, because currently not much people are using data stage, basically. More they are moving towards the SQLs, Python or other. So getting a data stage resource always been a big challenge for us. So we are able to reduce that risk. More, and developers, everyone, most of the people, they were able to know the SQL. So we were able to convert them into write SnowSQLs, basically. That was the biggest gain on the cost aspect and everything we were able to achieve. The next is anytime, because the time the things changes, a lot of rules, regulations, a lot of things, it comes in. We need to support a lot of data to our business sponsor. So it was not able to make the changes in a frequent fashion, basically, because of the old like ETL model and everything. Now we are able to make more frequent changes, basically. So anything changes on the LMS side, if any changes comes from each semester to another semester, we are able to achieve in a quicker fashion, even before the semester starts. We are able to create all the analytics ready, and it starts from right from the day one when the semester starts. That we are able to achieve. Another important metrics we are able to, where we gain more is, again, time to design, from the design to production. As I mentioned earlier, even to getting a data, it was taking a lot of time. Even the code, the data, it was taking a lot of time. Everything, it was a time-consuming process, and we need specialized skills. So it was taking minimum a source system integration. What we have done is, it took, we calculated all those things. It took 6 to 9 months, basically, to integrate a source system. As we are talking about 20 to 22 systems and multiply that, it's going to take years together. By the time the system will be outdated. So what we are able to do is, now we did already a 4 to 5 system. We're able to do it from start to finish within months, basically 2 months. We're able to do it, and we are able to produce the data. So that is what the biggest gain. And another advantage is we don't need to have any skilled resources, basically. Just in this equation, whatever the architecture I was showing, basic things you needed as a SnowSQL experience. You need to have SnowSQL experience. And another thing is, when I was telling about the job structuring and everything in the AWS environment, our our data modeler and BAs, they were they were just doing a CloudWatch schedule. They were creating a CloudWatch schedule and calling the SnowSQL. We created a framework. So in that way, there is no technical skills are required at all, except for the SQLs and understand the data, basically. So that was another biggest gain we did it. And when you're talking the cost, earlier I was mentioning, whenever we started this learning analytics project, we didn't know what kind of database size we need, because it is a streaming data. I have, for example, this is the basic thing everyone asks. When I go to start a project or request a database, how many terabytes you need, how many gigabytes you need. I need to set up the table space and everything on the Oracle. Here, when we started this project, we didn't ask any question about that, because our storage is infinite. Certainly it comes with a cost, but the storage is infinite. We are able to provision as we move on. So that is one of the biggest advantages. So, and we can shrink it. Once a development time, we can increase it. We can load various data. We can do a lot of data analysis, and then we can, if we don't need it, we can get rid of it. And we are going to pay only what we use for that particular month of analysis. We'll be paying more. After that, the cost is going to come down. So that was an advantage. And the last and most important thing is time to make the business decision. Because a lot of people think when you're talking about the data, this data belongs to IT and IT department, and always there is a tug of war between the business and IT. I would like to say, always the data belongs to business. The data has been created out of the business scenarios. That's what we are trying to consume, and we are just a facilitator. We are just facilitating this data so that the business can make a decision. So the whole purpose of the project is how I can help the business. That's what I need to do. I should not dictate, you need to do this or something like that. So that's where we opened it up. Let's the data modeler, let's the BAs who are working with the business, let them make the decisions, basically. So they can write the SQL, they can learn it, and then they can query the data, and they can make use of the data. That's what we are trying to do with it. So this framework, it removed multiple technologies, basically, just Snowflake. And right now we are using some of the AWS component. We are going to convert that into, as I mentioned earlier, we are going to convert that into Snowflake also. So it's a simple architecture, Snowflake, everything around Snowflake. We are trying to achieve the analytics, self-service analytics. That's what we are trying to achieve here. The closing thoughts I want to, as I mentioned earlier, when we went to Snowflake, we didn't sign up like a heavy credits or something like that. We started small. Since we don't know how much we are going to burn, how much our project is going to take, and how to use a Snowflake and all those things, we didn't know. So we started small. That's the reason I said we started with one source system. We did a lot of analytics from there. How much each source system it's going to consume right from the development to production. We did that math. And what kind of process, what kind of computes we need to have it for ETL, what kind of computes we need to use for BI, ad hoc query. Because business users, they want to do a lot of ad hoc query on our database. And sometimes they get the external data, they put it as it is, and they do a lot of analytics out of it. So in that aspect, we are able to, there is no upfront cost at all. We started small, and then we established and we extrapolated it. For one source system, this is the credit we need. Let's expand on that, and that is the approach we did. So no upfront cost. And as I mentioned earlier, we had a customized workload. Earlier, in the Oracle, when I was running, when we are running the jobs in Oracle and ETL, like always, like there was a hog, like because of the data processing, the queries and contention was there, and a lot of other issues was there. Because if you are being a global university, because once the data, whenever our jobs runs, that's where Shanghai and Abu Dhabi people, they start querying our warehouse, basically. So there was a lot of contention. It was happening in that fashion. Because of that, it was slowing down. So with this Snowflake, customized resource for the different workloads we are able to achieve. We don't need to worry about that. We created a huge, like a extra large, a large warehouse for the PI user, and medium to small, and based on the loads, we varied. If you're sometimes during the end of the month processing, we used to process the entire, a lot of huge data from finance system, HR system, all those things and all. During the time, we alter the warehouse. So if we know it in advance, or we have some script to do it, so we were able to alter it, and based on the workloads, we are able to modify the warehouse. And another thing, earlier I was mentioning about the data sharing. Since the data is available in one platform, one place, a lot of schools, a lot of deans have showed interest in understanding, querying, analyzing the data. Because of that, what has happened is this: because of the interest, we need to open up the this request via data sharing to many schools and everything. So due to that, we were depleting our credits faster also. So what we have done is we created some data sharing agreements, and we have set up some resource limit. This is the amount of credit you can, and this is what it is. We educated them, we brought them and we educated them. And so we told them this is what it is. And so we are able to achieve the like a data sharing agreement with the limits, basically with the resource limits. We are able to share the data without incurring huge costs. That's we are able to do it. The best important thing I mentioned is, earlier we were running the batch during the end of the day, and it was taking hours together. So there is a big lag. So here we kept on running on a micro batch level for us, and this can be easily altered if you want to get the near real-time data with the help of CloudWatch and other things and all. We don't need to do much of the programmatical fashion. Just go and change the CloudWatch rules from 4 hours, change it to 1 hour. That's it. We used to get the near real-time data for data analysis. Because during the registration of the semester and everything, the faculties and everything, they want to see latest and greatest data in their dashboard. So we were able to adjust the time of the loads basically from 4 hours to 2 hours to 1 hour. So earlier we were not able to do it. It's a fixed schedule because the time it takes to process the data, it was taking longer. So that's one thing we are able to do. And as the last one, as I repeated earlier, we are earlier when we had it in data stage and Oracle, there was always 1 to 2 FTE. They were on the support one, because a lot of times our batch job fails basically because of the load and Oracle issues and running out of space and everything. Here, there is nothing. We have set up alerts. If the alerts come in, we are going to act. Other than that, like, we don't have any FTE right now supporting this project basically. So everything is being taken care by Snowflake and other alerts and everything and all. So it is a seamless processing. It has reduced our landscape much better now with the lighter interaction with the system. So what we are able to do is, with this kind of approach, we are able to allocate the FTE to other projects. And our major university data warehouse, it's called UDW. It's a university data warehouse. It's running in Oracle. It comprises of various systems like Workday, like finance systems, like SIS is our student system, students registration system. A lot of system data, we are housing it in university data warehouse. Now we are planning to migrate that. Seeing the success story of the learning analytics project, we are planning to migrate that into Snowflake. That's one thing we are trying to do it. Due to COVID, what has happened is because we want to restrict the access to the university. We don't want to allow everyone to get into the university. So what we have done is, we do this projects in weeks, basically. If we are doing it in an older fashion, it's going to take heck a lot of time, basically. What we have done is, we are getting all the students, faculty who are getting into the university. They need to do the survey and all the test results and of the students, because the students, they need to go through weekly COVID tests, and those data we are coming from third parties and everything. We collecting all the data on a real time and putting into the Snowflake. Our Snowflake, this is the database where it's housing all the COVID related data, where university is processing and looking and providing the access. So with the help of that, all this data, we are putting it here. From there, this is the data it's going to registry, and Learnal is our card management system. So we put a lot of rules here and processing. So this warehouse, next-gen warehouse, where the data has been housed, all the card data, that it's going to tell who's going to get into the university. If, for example, if a COVID or a student hasn't gone through the COVID test for a few weeks, we are not going to allow the access for him. We are going to disable it based on the rules, whatever, or the data, what we collect. So all those things with the help of processing, this is going to allow who's going to get into the campus and everything we have allowed it. And this is one of the, this particular database we created in weeks to support the COVID initiative. And the last but not the least, I want to show you the COVID dashboard. This dashboard, it's running in Snowflake, basically. This dashboard, it tracks the students' test results, basically, and how many positive cases. It is a real-time dashboard. It goes to the Fed, New York State directive, everything. It's been running out of the Snowflake. And this project, it was done from start to finish and everything within a couple of months, basically. That's one of the beauty of how Snowflake is coming and helping us. Like.